This presentation is about autism spectrum disorder, or ASD, and evidence-based strategies to support children with ASD in the classroom. Firstly, I'd like to ask, how many people here know someone or have met someone with ASD? I believe if I looked around the room, it would be many of us. 1 in 50 Australians were diagnosed with ASD in 2015, so it's likely that you would have met someone or know someone with this disability. Most of you here have probably been in a classroom situation with a child who has ASD. Although most of us are not qualified teachers yet, it is likely that many of us work as EAs in daycares or other educational environments where we have met a child with ASD. This means even before stepping into the classroom, learning about ASD is relevant to all of us. I'm going to start with speaking about what ASD is, then about how we can use evidence-based practices and strategies to support students with ASD in the classroom. According to Autism Speaks, autism spectrum disorder is defined as a lifelong developmental condition that affects, among other things, the way an individual relates to his or her environment. In saying this, children with autism may struggle with processing information, verbal and representational output, reading and writing skills, and understanding non-verbal cues such as body language, subtle intent, and interpreting communication. A large sign of autism has to do with sensory processing, which is the way that an individual relates to their environment. A child with ASD may not have all of these features, as autism spectrum disorder is different based on each child. Sometimes people with ASD refer to their disabilities as being more ability-based, considering that they can concentrate on certain things for long periods of time and have the ability to recall great amounts of knowledge about certain topics. Therefore, when referring to ASD as a disability, it has to be carefully labelled for the individual. ASD is complex in so many ways, and these are just some of the main identifiers of ASD. Because ASD is so complex, how do we as teachers support this in the classroom? Firstly, we need to look at the child's individual behaviours and support the child from there. An extremely prevalent behaviour in the classroom and which impacts students with ASD is their sensory processing abilities. Sensory processing refers to the 5 senses and the brain's ability to register, organise and make sense of the information received from one's senses. These can manifest as oversensitivities or undersensitivities to all the senses, such as immature movement, sensitivity to light, sensitivity to noise, and in turn can cause outbursts of crying and tantrums. The impact of these behaviours can create a form of social isolation from peers being different from the norm, and that sensory processing impacts a child's ability to perform tasks required at school. So what is an evidence-based intervention that can help in lessening these behaviours that may come with having difficulties with sensory processing? Antecedent-based intervention, or ABI, is proven to help students with ASD. ABIs are a collection of practices in which environmental modifications are used to change the conditions in the setting that prompt a learner with ASD to engage in an interfering behaviour. ABI meets evidence-based criteria as it has been proven successful amongst 32 cases with toddlers and young adults. According to these studies, ABI can be used effectively for children with ASD to address social communication, behaviour, play, school readiness, motor and adaptive skills. Depending on the child's modifications, modifications can be made in the environment to aid in reducing these behaviours. For example, a child may be visually sensitive to light in the classroom and exhibit behaviours such as covering eyes, crying or showing signs of irritability when in bright rooms. After careful observation, the teacher may form the idea that the child requires a darker place in the classroom to work. Therefore, the teacher could cater for these sensitivities by creating a space for the child to work where the lights are dim. Another impact in the schooling environment for children with ASD is their ability to communicate and interact socially. As teachers, we need to find ways that we can aid in supporting these behaviours in everyday context. In regards to communication, children with ASD may have trouble with language, non-verbal and verbal communication, eye contact, facial expressions, repetitive behaviours and hand gestures. Because ASD is such a complex disorder, some children have rich vocabularies and others limited. A child with ASD may also have repetitive, rigid speech, narrow interests and exceptional abilities, uneven language development and poor non-verbal conversation skills. The impact this has on the child in a schooling environment presents social interaction and behavioural challenges. This can cause anxiety and isolation from peers. So, what practices can aid in developing communication skills? An evidence-based practice is functional communication training, also known as FCT. This is used to help decrease behaviours which may interfere with the child's everyday life through providing alternative ways to communicate and serve the same function. The purpose of FCT is to reduce problem behaviour and replace it with an appropriate communication response that serves the same function of the problem behaviour. For example, an issue in the classroom may be the child continues to interrupt the teacher when she is busy with other peers. The child with ASD may yell out or put their head in front of the teacher to get the teacher's attention when it is clear that the teacher is busy. This is also a form of hidden curriculum, which are everyday social cues that are so obvious to us but not for children with ASD. The social cue that is not obvious in this circumstance is waiting. The alternative form of communication could be placing the child with ASD's hand on the teacher's shoulder. The teacher then places her hand over the child's to let the child know she will see them soon, until the teacher is ready to interact with the child. Hand placing is a gesture that helps the child feel acknowledged and helps them practice wait time. The ABI method has been used by first identifying the behaviour, then providing an alternative communication. The next step is to introduce this to the child one-on-one through modelling and then practice it in everyday context. Other teaching strategies include using visuals in the classroom, understanding the hidden curriculum, and reinforcing positive peer role modelling in the classroom. It is evident that through the use of these practices, the social and emotional well-being of the child is influenced positively. So, in conclusion, us as teachers can use these strategies in the classroom to help support students with ASD. Thank you.